Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, we're late. We're a little late. I apologize. It is stupid. It is stupid. We're live. I hope we're okay. We're there. This is Friday live stream. Hurrah! It's just twittering people. Okay. We're a little over. We're a couple minutes over. I apologize again. Wow. It's a little cold. It's a Friday. It's Friday the 13th. Oh no! I wonder why things are kind of like going. Okay. Hold on. Let's unlock it. It's Friday the 13th. Ooh. Next week we'll start the Christmas breaks. I have one more week of school at Warszawa University. We have. I'm in a better mood this week. Actually, I had a really bad Wednesday. We had a department meeting, and to be honest with people, I had to come. I didn't get any sleep. Because I woke up at 2. Something woke me up at 2 in the morning. Either the atmosphere shift or something. Something woke me up. I didn't wake. I was 2 in the morning, 2:30. And I was like in bed trying to fall asleep again, trying to get it because I had to wake up by 9 very early next morning. I am not a morning person. As I get old now, I'm not a morning person. I went to bed early so I could get up in the morning, like at 8, 9 o'clock, so I can be on the, because we had a department meeting, my American Studies Center at 9:45 in the morning. And it's like, ugh. And I got there like 15 minutes early, and still because the traffic was always bad, you have to leave early. We're getting into this. It's not that far away, but it's enough traffic. It gets slow. It takes about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. If it's bad, it can take 40 minutes. So we left about early. It took 25, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. We got there. I got my meeting in time. I was there 10 minutes early, 15 minutes early. But it was still morning, and I was so wiped out by not sleeping. It just really fucked me up. I mean, I was just like low energy. My mind, it was difficult to pay attention to the teaching. I had like an hour. I had basically an hour and a half before teaching. So I printed things. I got my I got my 2 quizzes printed for this week and next week. Next week I have exams again, so I have to be there early again. It's like, oh God, it's like, oh, I hate having to be there early because it just really I just hope I get to sleep it doesn't happen again. It was a disaster in class. I mean, not the first class, the BA pro seminar was okay. I was still kind of like a little foggy, but the later class that happened between 3 o'clock to 4:30, my American law course, it was a disaster. I got off on the wrong topic, which it was all supposed to be about torts. Torts. This week was about tortious action, which is, remember, torts are harms, damages in common law. We addressed the question of damages and obligations and damages. And what happened was I brought up, if I wasn't a little bit not as tired, my mind would have said, don't do that. I brought up the problem of abortion, right? Because this is a question of, the question in torts are damages, harm to parties. And I thought it brought up abortion on a weird, I wasn't to be controversial, it was just, I brought it up. And the problem here is, it is a harm done to a thing. The question of harm and all this, it's a harm. We have to understand it. It is a harm to a life, and that's even if we disagree. I mean, I got even more trouble when I said, "Listen, I'm kind of pro-abortion. I mean, I'm not against all abortions. I have problems." And he said, "Listen, I even said the question is life, health, and mother." And they said about disformity of child. And I said, "Well, you can't do that in Poland because you have the Polish Constitution has this anti-eugenics position." And the problem was the students were like, the young women students are always going to be, my wife said it right, saying that young women want to have the choice of it. As they get older, when they don't think it's wrong, but when they're younger, because they would want to have the choice. And I don't care about the choice. My problem was I was talking about the question of harm, the question of a damage done to a party, and how and the question of not only because in American in common law there's also persons are actual persons and legal persons. The problem is a fetus is technically an actual person under law. Because why? Because we brought up the whole problem of, well, if someone attacks a woman who's pregnant and the child dies, they can charge him with murder. So that murder is the taking of a life, right? A person, right? How can you charge someone with murder if that's not a life? So it's a life in this situation, but not a life there. So I was just trying to make the point to understand it, and that was a diatribe. And then I have a student who is completely weird, a male student who was, and I try to move it to the Daniel Penny incident of the question of, okay, the Daniel Penny story about what was wrong with the charging Penny in that sense, because he was a good Samaritan, and a good Samaritan. Okay, the argument is, well, you should have known better. He was a trained guy. It was like, and if I was probably less tired, I would have been able to handle that day. So I left that day. In fact, the student was going really insisting that, oh, I've been in fights, and I go, I'm sorry. This idea that because apparently he's a Marine, he would have known that he should have let the guy go after he was limped. No, someone's danger. You don't let him. You don't. If someone is threatened, oh, there was no knife in this. I said, well, you don't know there's not a knife. Someone comes in and says something. I'm going to kill somebody if I don't get what I want. And he has, he may have a knife in his pocket. You don't know, or some weapon in his pocket. You don't know. The fact that the person does not later have a weapon does not mean in the time. In other words, there was no way of Penny knowing that the crazy person did not have it. The crazy person was a crazy person, and actually, even a crazy person is a threat to everyone else. So in this case, he was not using excessive force. He was using the amount of force. I mean, technically, he was just holding the guy. If he was going to train to kill, Marines are trained to kill. He should have snapped the neck. Didn't do that. He just held him down as he choked him out. But even then, they held him out. Now, the question is, though, when does it become wrongful death? Well, wrongful death, that's a damage. But the question becomes, that's why, what is it? Good Samaritans, usually the rule tends to be that you favor the Good Samaritan. So that was a disaster. And I'll talk about today. That was Wednesday. Today was okay. We did my student class. We had our Federalist Papers, pro seminar for MA research on American political thought, and we had about 5 students today. We had one of the women students didn't show up today. I think she was maybe ill because last week the other one was not for 2 weeks ago. The other one was ill, and they get ill. People get ill. We had a good. We got some things done. But the problem is they don't think. They don't really think. I try to force them to think on certain things because we try to get them to deal with the question of consent, the idea of consent as being the basis of modern political thought. And they just don't, it was like tooth pulling. I dealt with their expectation of what they have to do in terms of their presentation. Their presentation, we highlighted how to make what is presentation, what works. I then had a discussion about their writing a literature review and what does that curtail, what the purpose of a literature review is and how to do it. That's their big assignment that's due after Christmas break. And then the last assignment for the class is their presentation. They're turning the paper in on the first week of February, and then they have to do the assignment on. Then all of them picked. They took a theme or issue from the Federalist and are applying it in their own papers. Now they have their topics. Now they're generating their literature reviews. They submitted a working draft bibliography. Some did better than others, but was done in that sense. That the bibliography is done, and now they're generating. They have to start reading and expanding on this and generating a literature review. That's going to be a little difficult. That's going to require some tests. Now I'll highlight it again next week to talk about that like that. We also then tried to cover some aspects of American political thought. I wanted to show them about how, Federalist Papers, well, what is the sources? There's European sources, there's the sources that influence the Federalist Papers. And I said, we talked about Locke, of course, Locke, Montesquieu, and others. We dealt with those kind of before. And I said, this is the problem with this kind of class is it's a research pro seminar. You don't know. If this was a course on the Federalist Papers, I would have taught it completely different, because I would have then had them do every week a different Federalist Papers, and maybe even have short essays, not big essay, right essay. Have them write on different Federalist Papers or debates within the Federalist Papers, and maybe even had them do 2 or 3 literature reviews on this on the second, engaging them with the secondary literature. But the problem here is that this is a research pro seminar, which is supposed to design them for master students to prepare them to do research, but focusing, of course, this is political thought and history of ideas. So the focus was on history of ideas and political thought, right? So we're using the Federalist Papers as the lens. So use the Federalist Paper to focus their analysis. So we're not going to actually study the Federalist Papers, even though we kind of dealt with it. I spent we for the first 6 weeks of 7 weeks of the course, I did schedule out for them to go focus in their readings on those areas. So they're supposed to read. The question, did they read or not? Again, this is the problem. I'm not there to teach a course. I'm there to introduce them to how to engage in research. So I focus more on the technical aspects of engaging in research and how one engages research on these kind of questions. So I'm always not happy with this. And to be honest with the students, I can see there's 2 students who are there. A lot of students are I call them placeholding students, where they're kind of like in a I was just weird. I just got to notice the student dropped the class. Oh, God. My American class. Well, it's too late. He's already 4th week. He's really late. It's annoying, though, because this is a small group of 4, now it's 3. And it's what happened. And one of the third one is it's difficult. So it's really two students, two real students, and one student who's kind of like who's retaking the course. So it's frustrating. Okay, enough of that. What about work? What about me and this? What we're doing with you guys? Okay, I have not started recording them. I have not started recording the new series yet, and I probably will start over Christmas and it's January. We'll start that. I have the text. I have some of the cards and things ready to do that. I'm ready to go do that. I'll start doing that. But I'm stuck. I'm finishing right now. I have to re-edit my De La Mora review of my review on egalitarian envy for the European conservative. I'm getting feedback. Someone told me they'll send me the comments and write-ups, and I'll take the edits. I'll take them and redraft it and reframe it and write the paper up a little better in that sense for them. I think it has to be cut a little bit in that sense. I'll do that. I just the editor at American Affairs gave me a April 1st to do my thing on ethnic nationalism versus civic nationalism. And I think I'm going to get that. He sent me very good comments. He worked it. I'm going to address the problem of patriotism versus nationalism. And I'm going to actually even add in something about Eric Kaufman's work, White Shift, because I think it is a good point. White Shift is a very interesting point. The intersection of, and it echoes perfectly what Yak said about the interpenetration of civic nationalism and ethno-nationalism in that sense. That this is a false dichotomy, that these two things are separated in that sense. So I'm happy about that. I haven't heard back from the Polish journal. I mean, I'm waiting for Politeia, we call it Politeia, the Polish journal to actually release. They issued the December issue. They published, and it's my piece wasn't in it, and they told me it should be either now or the new year. This is still they're basically almost 6 months behind in the release of their journal. So it's really annoying that it's 6 months release. I haven't heard back from my political anthropology thing, the Aristotle's political anthropology thing that I submitted in beginning of September. I haven't heard from the Polish journal editor about that yet, about whether corrections or comments or, and it's 6 months. Now this is like 6 damn months. They should have something. This is very frustrating. This is something really annoying about this. They haven't even said, okay, yes, it's going to be published in 2025, but you should be getting feedback by now. They insisted on getting told you have a deadline. You submit it at a deadline, and then 6 months after the deadline, you don't get comments back. That's kind of really frustrating. I submitted my Oakshott piece to a Polish journal. I'll be there. I'm expecting to be rejected because it needs footnotes. Maybe so. What I'll get back is comments to, well, please edit it and add notes. And I'll ask them, can I have like a month or 2 months to make the notes? And okay, I got approved for my. No, I just did all the paperwork for my conference paper going to the U.S. They bought my ticket. University paid for my ticket, so airline ticket. Yay! I made my reservations. I submitted the paperwork for the micro grant, so we'll hopefully get the micro grant so I can cover the whole trip there, and hopefully my wife will be able to come with me. They won't pay for the grant. I'll have to pay for her. We'll buy her airplane ticket, and because I'm getting the room as a room, you can. It's every apartment, every hotel it's really 2 people in the U.S. There's no single bedrooms, and it's not going to be. And I'm just going to say, listen, where it's registered as a signal, but it's really two people can go there, and she'll come with that. It'll be Wallace, and that will make life a little easier on the trip, because she was supposed to come last time 2 years ago, and that fell through. So we have to make sure. And I really, something can happen is she not able to get the ticket, but I hope to God she will go to the U.S. I want her to see Chicago. She can go to the art museums while I'm in the conference. She can go enjoy the things. I just have to make sure that everything is right, and I'm kind of like, yeah. But my paper is almost written. Okay, my paper is. I have a draft of that paper. So that Midwest paper is 90% done. I have to rewrite my thing on book Aristotle Politics 5 on chapter 4, where the two things, the small things. I have something there. I can work on it. And also the force and fraud, which I presented in Budapest. I need to kind of rework and publish. I have to kind of get this done. And it has to be a little more because it's a little too short. It needs to be a little more, and I have to add some more things to it. And I added some things. I have to do this like this. It's almost something to get. I think I'll get that during the thing. I didn't promise it to anyone, so I'm kind of like, eh. And what else? I have a couple other things. The political forum thing I'm working on. That's like I said at the beginning of what I'm doing. So we'll see what happens. I'm just kind of like that is almost done. And then my Alain Benessort's piece on his 1999 essay on is it 1999 or it's on it's earlier. I think it's a little earlier, 19. At Telos. It was published in Telos on sovereignty, and I really want to get that done. I have an essay. I just have to put notes in it. I really have to just sit down and put the damn notes. The essay is written. I just need to put the notes in it, and I'm going to try to send it to History of European Ideas first, because I think they might like it, even though Alain Benessoit is kind of a controversial figure. I'm going to argue that this early piece is very interesting because it's not really early because he was still a nationalist at the time. But in this is his least nationalist. This is his defense of subsidiarity. This is critiquing of Bodin's conception of sovereignty, which is the basis of nationalism. The idea of the sovereignty and the sovereign state is in other words, he's criticizing the Bodinian / Hobbesian construction of state, which is a unitary construction of sovereign will, versus a conception based on subsidiarity, based upon what's his name? The book's over here. It's hiding. I can't see it because my Vogelin picture is blocking it right now because the Vogelin picture moved it from where it was to over there. What's his name? Oh, come on. What is the... Oh, no. What is it? Pardon, God, jeez. Okay, that's not fun. I apologize. He says, Johannes Lucis, and his Politica, and his idea of this federated political structure of subsidiarity, political subsidiarity. Now, subsidiarity is important, interesting, because of Christine de Sol's classic book on the principle of subsidiarity, which honestly, this little teeny book should be in English. If those who want to study the question of subsidiarity and the idea of federalism, okay, the true idea of true federalism, I think this is a very important work. That Christine de Sol's on this. This is up there with this. It's up there with, and I hope that I mean, it's people say, well, I wanted to write a review for it for somebody, but someone said it because it was published in 1993. Oh, it's too old. But most English, my God, you know how ignorant most Anglo-Saxon writers, English language people are of people like de Sol. I mean, de Sol has a number of books that's been translated. Icarus, Fallen, there's a series of books, but ISI, Social Conservatives, and Friends of Dan Mahoney, my friend Dan Mahoney, got published through ISI. I think there's like 3 books that was translated. But this book was not one of them. And I think the same thing with this. This is what, okay, this is my new copy. I had an old copy. I asked for a new copy because I don't know why I asked for a new copy. I just wanted to get a new copy because I couldn't find my old copy. My old copy went missing, and I was going crazy about this. Le Régime Politique by Philippe Baton. This book, again, is a fantastic book. I might translate it. My French is hard. My French is so-so. I can read it, but I might spend some time translating it. Why? And I might translate it on Substack, but that's neither here nor there. Baton is essential. Why? His understanding of regimes, and this is interesting. I still am trying to get my review of Baton's book on Machiavelli looked at. I got rejected. It got rejected at a place. I know Paul Seaton didn't like it. Paul and I got into kind of a shit. Paul kept on giving comments. Paul was angry that I didn't say that Baton rejected. When I first wrote it, I was paying attention to what Baton was saying about Machiavelli, and not so much paying attention to his disagreements with Machiavelli. So when Paul read my piece, he was very critical of it, saying that, well, Baton disagrees with Machiavelli. And he kind of took something I wrote. He kept on forcing me to rewrite it. And every time I rewrote it, it went away from what I was trying to say with it. And then in October, he kind of gave me an ultimatum to fix it. And I looked at it, and this idea that, okay, no, this is going to be a short review. Okay, he wants to go in this weird direction. I just didn't really want to go into. So I rewrote the thesis. I rewrote it. And then what happened was then he then gave it back, and it was like very much. So I took his points. I added the things he did, and then he didn't like it because, well, you promised this but didn't deliver that. Well, I didn't deliver it because you liked it. I thought you liked it, and then what happened was I addressed your criticisms, and that ended up going in another direction. And you wanted more evidence. You didn't say, I want more evidence of this. Again, editors need to be good. And I was really, in the sense that give good, if you're going to edit somebody, but they don't want to be editors. Most people don't want to be, they said they want a perfect review. Okay, great, perfect review. I don't mind getting rejected and getting feedback, but you have to give feedback that makes directions, and that didn't happen. I rewrote the review. I totally, after fighting with him, I kind of reworked it. I sent it to, and I got help from someone else, Tim Burns. Tim highlighted areas which he thought that needed to be addressed, and I then addressed them. But it was too long. It became the thing that I ultimately then for that ended up getting really long. It got to 10 pages, single spaced. That's too big. Okay, most reviews are only 1,500 to 2,000 words. Not 10 pages. That's like, okay, nearly 1,500 is usually, the 1,500 words is 4 pages. Okay. 1,000 to 1,500 to 2,000. That's 4 to 5 pages. Okay. At 10 single space pages, that's maybe even, that's 4 to 6,000, maybe even 8,000 words. It was a little too long in that sense. It's like 4,000, 4 to 6,000 words. That's a little too long. And I understand why he said in French, "Oh, I pass." And I go, "I'll blame you." No, that's acceptable. I sent it to Vogelin View. I hope Vogelin View will like it. I haven't heard back from one way or the other. It's kind of exhausting. And of course, he sent it to the students to make this into. I don't know. It's silly in that sense. I got tired of it. I'm just exhausted. Okay, sorry. I'm just killing things. 10-page ego. Yeah, that's the problem. 10-page ego review. I agree with you in that sense. A 10-page is not an ego. I mean, the problem with this was it went into a topic area and flushed out the thing. It was too big in that review. I agree with you. Ego review. It got 10 pages because it got stuck and mired with detail. People started asking specific facts and specific things. I addressed those specific things, and then what happens is the more detailed you get and evidence to support something, instead of, the argument was people said, "Oh, you're being too general." Well, that's a friggin' thing about a small review, a 1,000-page review of a 400-page book, 400-page book. And to be honest, my physical copy of the book has gone missing. I've been using an EPUB, and I just reordered. I just bought a new copy. It's coming soon, probably today or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow come in. Because why am I buying the new copy? It's €20 book. I'm buying it. Why? Because I'm gonna put page numbers. Because one of the things that was lacking in it was page numbers, and on my review, and that was because I was using EPUB, and you can't use page numbers in EPUB. I'm sorry, just don't have page numbers in EPUB. That workable. So that's why it was kind of very frustrating. Benetton's book on Machiavelli is a very good book. In the sense it deals with the writing, Machiavelli's style of writing, and the way his writing, the style of his work and writing affects the way Machiavelli is understood. And not only understood, but also how it shapes his ideas and the role of shaping the ideas of modern political thought. So therefore, in fact, this is why Benetton is following the footsteps of Strauss and that stuff. Now, I've always talked about Benetton's controversial book. It's ironic that it was originally written in French. His book, "The Kingdom Suffereth Violence," it was translated. It's translated in English, but the original French has not been. How can I say this? The original French, the translator by Paul Aschenbolt. The original book of the thing and the documents of France has not been published. So this is an interesting, weird thing. It's the correspondence, this idea of the correspondence between Machiavelli, Erasmus, and More. And the problem with it is it's a fiction in that sense. it echoes. It is not really simply. Um, it's not traditionally. How can I say this? It's not. It has like the famous that they write to each other in hell. That Machiavelli writes more from hell, and more writes than dead, and they correspond to each other as death. That's fiction. This echoes what was done by, I forget the name. Come on, Political Dialogues. A volume by Political Dialogues. It was by a British political theorist. He wrote a series of dialogues between political theorists, and again, this was not done as it's done. In other words, as a dialogue in order to understand the various. In other words, what the author did here. What is Political Dialogues? Maurice Cranston. Maurice Cranston. Was it Maurice Cranston? I'm trying to remember correctly. I want to say it was Maurice Cranston. Yeah, Political Dialogues by Maurice Cranston. It was published in 1968. Okay, yes, I remember this book. I remember reading it as a student in college. I'm sorry. I'm going to give you the Amazon. I'll give a link in here to just so people know the Amazon version of it. Political. This was a great. It's not real dialogues. It's him giving a series of dialogues of different authors. And what Philippe Benetton does in The Kingdom Suffering, is this debate that is there, that there is a kind of, you see in More, and particularly More in Erasmus, a critique of Machiavelli. And actually Machiavelli, you see a kind of critique of More as well. And they just make this series of correspondence between them, which really doesn't exist in reality. So what Benetton does is he, as an act of fiction, he generates, in looking at these authors, and generates for them in that. Now, the funny thing is that the French publisher, the university was not publisher, they stopped it. They didn't publish it. That's Benetton's book was not published in French. I was hoping, I was kind of trying to, he doesn't email, he doesn't respond, so it's like ridiculous. I don't think he speaks that well in English to people, so and I can't communicate in French, I'll be honest. I can't speak French to save myself. I can't hardly speak English, right? People joke about that. I'm just going to say that the problem with this Benetton, it's a great book. It deals with this. Now his new Machiavelli is different. It is a scholarly Machiavelli. It addresses Machiavelli as a writer. It is a book that it should be translated in English. Benetton has been translated in English. Benetton has been translated in English. Bene. Eeks. Yeah, is Equality by Default was published. What else? Equality by Default, translated by Ralph Hancock, which I know. What else? His it's missing. I apologize. It should be, here's the Amazon page that deals with that. It used to be he had some good articles that, okay, there's the French. No, he had a lot of articles, books. He had a thing on conservatism, the social classes, and things like that that are still classics in that sense. In his introduction to politics, which I have in there, his egalitarian, par defect, which is inequality by default, is inequality by default. Eesh. Let me see what else. I want to get the it's gonna drive me crazy. He wrote a book, a fantastic book. He wrote a fantastic book. It's going to drive me crazy now because I don't see him here. His English book is, I know there's another English book that was translated of his. And it's going to really drive me crazy now. It was, Equality by Default is one book, but there's another book about well, I'm not gonna. I'll just get derailed. It is the problem with Baton is that he's a very important writer. He wrote a book, if I remember correctly, about the totalitarians, the liberal totalitarians. If I remember correctly, of this book, it was published by translated by Ralph Hancock, and it was published at ISI Books. And the problem with ISI Books, most of them have ceased published. They went on the ISI quit publishing books, or they kind of went a weird direction. Let's just go for now. I'm going to stop that. Let's go talk about what people wrote last week. I wrote something last week. This week it's out there. It's on Weber. It's available. Go check out the links in my content. I will just put it here. I'll just post it again here for people on the chat. I wrote a piece on Weber published by, okay, it's too many. It's too big. Hold on. So hold on, let me just at my friend the Miskatonian guys. They're doing a lot of work there, and I know that they got the new site up, they got the thing done correctly. So I'm happy that they have the article. I thought they were going to publish the Weber thing next month. I have something on the poll list I was hoping they were going to publish. They said they were going to publish it, but they published this instead of that earlier because they liked it so much. Which, okay, great. But then what happened was Steve Haywood then published it as well, which, okay, that's wonderful. He published it, so that on the 10th, the Miskatonian published my Weber on. It was basically Weber on, I picked the title, Weber's Trinity, capitalism, liberalism, and Christianity. I just was talking about the interplaying, Weber's conception of the interconnection between liberalism, Christianity, liberalism, and capitalism. So the editors did pick a nice title. It's so much so that Steve Haywood then republishes it, reprinted it today in his Political Questions Substack, which is part of Steve Haywood's Political Questions is the Substack for his stuff he does at Powerline. Okay, so therefore that's pardon God. That was a nasty thing. So I have done that. That's been one thing about this. So I'm kind of hoping that was having out there. What else? Well, let's go talk about Corlitz's thing. He published thing. He thanked me for my Vogelin thing last week, some recommendations, right? You can see in a Vilke article about her that Pierre Bunt is listed as one of her inspirations. I think that's true. I had a look at third volume of Advent. He took the third volume of Advent, which is this, the third volume. Bichette discusses race and conservative revolution phenomenon, chapter 4 of this book, and he does that. Yes, the big Nazi chapter is huge. And the section on Houston Stewart Chamberlain, the author of Foundations of the 19th Century, is on page 284 to 302 of the paperback. He discusses it again in the relationship between Chamberlain's ideas and National Socialism in chapter 9 in the L'escade Nazi Escalade. And he goes, now, James asked me, was Vogelin and influence on Bichette? I don't think so. I don't see Bichette explicitly referencing Vogelin. Now, we know Vogelin was influenced Hannah Arendt. So, because Arendt mentions Vogelin in Origins of Totalitarianism. And this led Vogelin to kind of course, review this and review of politics. And that led to a kind of, in fact, they even though Vogelin thought her a journalist at best, right? That was the words. Corliss says there seems to be some similarity in interpretations, and I think that is the case. He goes. Corliss says I was interested in Vogelin's idea about the different manifestations of the body idea, and Bichette's idea of the one and the sacred community. I think a version of this is in Claude Lefort as well. So I think that's true. I think there is this body idea and the thing of this. This is why someone like for Vogelin, Bergson's problem of the two sources of morality, this is where you get the open society problem. The question of open and closed. But then it gets misinterpreted by people like Karl Popper that Vogelin highlights. And I think this is a problem because Vogelin was influenced by these French thinkers about this question. And I think Vogelin because Vogelin is covering the same territory as they do. But see, Vogelin is a very hard bird to get, particularly on this question. The race stuff is this early 1930s stuff. This is a different Vogelin. This is not the Vogelin of Gnosticism. It's his confrontation with the Nazis and the idea of political religion, particularly in the Modernity in Full Blast, chapter 5, where he does in book 5, volume 5 of volume 5 of volume 5 of okay, let me just get it. Volume 5. Okay, VOGEN modernity. Yeah, this is. Oh, that's the history of ideas. Now, that's 23. This is the rise of modernity. No, that's. Yeah, modernity without restraint. That is the. That is the little bugbear. Okay, I'll put it here in links. Vogelin's modernity without restraints. This is the thing that is the transition. Vogelin's earlier works, particularly in volume 4, which is his authoritarian state, it is here with 1938, his 38 thing, Political Religions. He then will write in 1952, The New Science of Politics, which is the break, this is his kind of, his real change to his understanding that will become the basis by which he attempts his order in history, the multi-volume project that he eventually fails on, right? That he abandons his history of political thought that he started in 1932, 34, coming to America in 1930, 40, 41. He started during the 40s. He's doing the history of ideas, his multi-volume project. It is only with this rethinking about the question of political religions here and the rise that leads him to the conception of Gnosticism that's in his New Science of Politics, of the theory of representation that he comes up with. That then leads to the third part of the volume, which is the volume 5, is Science, Politics, and Gnosticism, which is a series of lectures in 1958, right? This is these were the lectures of his professorship, the inaugural lecture at Munich in 58. Okay, that introduced him to West German political life in that sense. When he went back, he took over the Weber chair at he turned back to the Weber chair of a message retracted. I don't see okay. The Weber chair, in that sense, is important for someone like Vogelin, and this is the fifth book goes in a completely different direction than his earlier stuff on Riksdag theory, and that the race book was shaped. The book on 2 volumes on race, which is the race volume 2, race and state, and volume 3, which deals on the history of the racial idea. These are done within the context of his attempt to struggle with the question of Riksdag that plagued him from his which plagued him in his after his book on the American that came back when he came back from American for the Fulbright and the Rockefeller Grant Foundation that dealt. Well, I think it was more Fulbright. I think it was. I don't remember. I'm getting the Fulbright and that wrong. I think, but he went to America on a grant. He went to studied in Midwest. In fact, at University of Wisconsin. Met some constitutional scholars, got so influenced by American political thinking, saw it as an alternative. He saw this common sense model as an alternative to the logical positivism that dominated Germany. And that became his first volume, that first book that he wrote. That was his post dissertation. I think his post-abilitative work. And then his books on race in Germany was important in that sense. He was struggling with he was struggling in the 30s. Vogelin was struggling in the 30s with the concept of Riksdag, how to handle this. He was in a weird position trying to get the professorship at Vienna under the rise. First of all, the rise of the Nazis. That's one thing, and the rise of the authoritarian states. Vogelin was a weird character because he was not a. He was later in life when he came back. He was very much attracted. A lot of students were mostly SDP, Social Democrats, and social, red students. Vogelin was anti-Nazi, although he was sympathetic to the authoritarians. Remember, Dollfuss and the fascist regime in Austria that happened in 1932. This is an anti-Nazi movement. So we have to understand that a lot of fascism was as much hostile to Nazism as originally. That only after the weakness of the response. Remember, it was Mussolini and gang went to allies and said, "Listen, let's go take out Hitler." And it was the cowardliness of the Western liberals that led, and then later with a conflict between England and Italy over the Italian claims in East Africa, that eventually then led to Mussolini being forced to get in bed with Hitler. It was Mussolini who was trying to block, who did not want German ascension, take Auschwitz in 1938. Remember, unification of Austria into Germany happens late, 1938. And it happens late only because of Mussolini's opposition to it. So you have to understand Vogelin's, authoritarian state book, which he was very much engaged in a project of trying to understand the what we call a state theory, the idea of Riksdag, the state theory of that. Stadtler, sorry, not Riksdag. Riksdag is the constitutional state. Stadtler. Stadtler is this idea of the theory of state, the constitutional structure of state theory, and that his really a tiny. Now at this time he's confronting with. He is very much engaged with and a student of, and also critic of Hans Kelsen. Now, does Vogelin know Schmidt? Yes, but not as much as we would think. In many ways, Vogelin's criticism of Kelsen mirrors Schmidt's kind of criticisms of the German neo-Kantians. So there's this kind of you see in Vogelin's reviews in the 1930s, 20s, late 20s, early 30s, some inkling of Schmidt, but not much. So Vogelin is a very strange character in this. Now, the race books, that's one thing. It's the Gnosticism thing. And this is what I would think, okay, Gauchet will be interested, people who study Gauchet would be interested in as a theological political question, the mention in Gauchet. I think this is the Vogelin of the new science, right? The political religions and new science, which is a later Vogelin. This is not the Vogelin of race. So the Vogelin of race would have is more of a traditional understanding, and this would explains Vogelin's critique of Arendt. Vogelin's later critique of Arendt is that Vogelin said, "I don't mind you quoting my stuff on race. You're right. I'm not denying it. I'm not going to repudiate it, but I now have different thinking about this." And it is this dimension that I think James is right about in terms of in Gauchet, this idea that the problem of Nazism is not resting on the purely rationalistic, scientific grounding of it. In other words, it's not based upon science. It's based upon this spiritualized, a longing, an attempt to re-spiritualize. This idea of looking at this kind of spiritualized understanding of race that you see in Gobineau and Chamberlain as well. I think in Chamberlain you see also a kind of a weird, that race is spiritualized in a Gobineauian fashion. This is where I got into trouble with students. They said, but didn't the Nazis quote the American eugenicists? See, American eugenicists were not as much the American, but the problem with this is they say, but social Darwinism. Well, but social Darwinism, Spencer and gang only it's inaccurate to call them social Darwinians. They accept aspects of Darwinian kind of rational selection process. Okay. And understands it organically. You can see this in someone like William Graham Sumner, William Graham Sumner, in his organicized conception of human activities, but at the same time, a individualist, a radical individualist. In other words, Sumter and also Spencer's really are framed within this. You do not see the same racialized thinking in either of these two thinkers that you would see in the likes of Chamberlain and Gobineau. Gobineau is not influenced by. There is almost no influence of Darwin and Gobineau. Given that Gobineau's earlier than Darwin, even though he lives longer. But Chamberlain should have been influenced by Darwinian thinking, but no, I don't. I've never been convinced the argument that someone like you look at Chamberlain's writing on race, it is spiritualist in that sense, and there is this idea of superiority. There is the white man's burden, right? This is this is an aspect of imperialism, right? It is, but it's not. It's not. It doesn't. This is the problem with. There is this idea of kind of, in Chamberlain, it's a paternalistic idea of a superiority, not someone like not so much Gobineau, but the Nazis saw a mechanism to exterminate and eliminate the inferior, the subordinate, because it corrupts and it perverts these things, and it does so spiritually in that sense. This is why is a very problematic thing about this. It is a very problematic it is very problematic in terms of that. So we're at the I want to finish my James wrote. He goes, he basically thinks about, like I said, I was interested in Vogelin's idea about the different manifestations of the body idea and Gauchet's idea of the one. or the Sacred community. I think that is the aspect of this, and that is problematic with the role of this question. He goes, I think there's a version of this in Clifford as well, the fear of totalitarian. Right? I think that's. I mean, can you explain this more, James? Could you, in your comments today, if you comment on this, I would appreciate you highlight more about this. This would be an interesting thing to talk about. What you mean exactly about the body idea in Vogelin. I want to, because I talked about the body idea. That's not Vogelinian. The body idea comes from Ernst Kennetovitz. If you think I would have to look carefully. The idea of the body in Vogelin is tied to the concept of representation in the Gnosticism book. I think I have to check that out, how to deal with that. And that is something that there is this connection of the theological and the concern of this thing. So if you could highlight what you mean by Gashot's idea of the one in the sacred community, this would be useful for our purposes. And like this. And then you go, what? Chamberlain is interesting. He seems to have been a significant figure in relation to anti-Semitism, but no one mentions him on the alt-right. Exactly. I think that is, I think people don't have lost, I think there is, well, I think the alt-right doesn't exist anymore as it is. The alt-right was a temporary thing, the dissident right, and even today's dissident right, it is this was a kind of a coalition of various odd factions. I don't think they like him because he's an imperialist, a globalist. If you look at Chamberlain, there is this idea of global responsibility, and it's paternalistic. His idea of racial supremacy, Chamberlain's idea of racial supremacy, is one where the higher races care for and paternalistically guide and care for, protect the inferior races from themselves. Hence why imperial policy is necessary, why the white man must bear the burden. And this is pure Kipling, right? Kipling's in that sense, that you bear the white man's burden. And this is, now, Kipling was anti-German. Remember, Kipling's critique is the lesser breeds are really not the inferior races, but also the Germanic races. Okay, whereas someone like Chamberlain was very much thought that there was going to be a English-Germanic alliance against the Asian, thing, against the Asian thing. You can see Chamberlain's influencing the thinking of the Kaiser Wilhelm. Kaiser Wilhelm's letters to the Tsar about the Asian menace and the threat of you can see this influence on German thinking you can see Chamberlain having a significant impact in among the certain German thinkers, even though he's an Englishman. But again, this is empire. This is globalization. This is the idea that there is an obligation, that the white people have an obligation to rule over this, and that's why I'm not sure the alt-right likes this. The alt-right has abandoned empire. They have got a critique of power that looks at empire as automatically globalist and always going to be liberal. I mean, the problem with, in many ways, the problem with Chamberlain is that he is a progressive. He is a progressive. And we must also remember the way progressivism in itself had racial supremacist underlining in America. You go look at even people like Woodrow Wilson, and his progressivism is also mired by his white supremacy. So we have to be very understanding of what's going on here in that sense and I think this is why the alt-right in its anti-progressivist position, the alt-right or the dissident right of the of the 21st century looks at progressivism as the enemy. And because that they see progressivism as the enemy, they can't look at this. This is why they're quiet about someone like Chamberlain, because Chamberlain is a progressive in a sense. He believes in progress. He believes in this idea of progress. We have to understand this is where the problem. Nietzsche's right. Nietzsche. I think people need to go read again Nietzsche's critique of Wagner. I think a lot of what we want to say the Gobineauian, Chamberlain, spiritualist conception of race, of Volk, is, you can look at Wagner's writings, Richard Wagner's writings, as well as his music. You can see this in Nietzsche's first embracement of it, early embracement of it, but then his rejection of it, and the anti-Semitism that's inherent in it. This anti-Semitic aspect of this. I think this is we're 11 minutes over the hour, or at 6, so I don't want to go too much over this. And I know people saying, "Well, you're just showing your normie status." I'm not a normie. Yeah, am I a normie? Yes and no. We'll see. I just don't have. I think there's a problem here. I think there's the spiritual, and this is what may be my problem with. I noticed something. People want to look at Modern Maid, the YouTube guy, Modern Maid, and the whole problem with Churchill that he has. And people saying, well, but he's just repeating Buchanan's criticism about that. And I'm saying, no, he's not. He's going beyond it. And Buchanan was, at this point, in his critique of World War II, I think made a mistake. I think this is where Buchanan is right about, Buchanan is not a historian. He's an amateur, he's a journalist, he's interested in politics, he's interested in policy, but as a historian, he's not really trained, and he gets things wrong about Churchill and about the war. And Modern Maid echoes these same. In fact, he doubled down. In fact, the problem is the problem of it's within the alt-right. There is this one of normalization, this idea that if they lie to us about everything must be, we have to rethink of things. And the problem with this is that no, some things we don't. Even the progressives get certain. Even our enemies can get certain things right. Okay, this is the problem with them, the progressives, is that they can't acknowledge that their enemies can be right. Okay, we should not fall into their trap, but that doesn't mean that our enemies are not our enemy. Okay, and there are enemies to the right, because they're not really to the right. Because what is right? What does right and left mean? This is my problem with I want to end on this note. This is the Bradford. I was talking about. I was watching this guy who was a Southern historian, wants to be a Southern historian, who has a YouTube channel who I kind of liked, and he was interviewed. He was talked on AA, and I kind of wrote them, said, "Listen, I know. I'm sorry. I was a student of Mel Bradford. I know Southern history. I'm not a Southerner. I'm a Yankee, but I was very much influenced by Bradford, and I understand these issues very much." Oh no, I agree with you. I agree. Brutus says is not much relevant to the context of the current discussion, but I'm not sure that Nietzsche was some of his. Yes, exactly. Nietzsche is not an anti-Semite. I would agree with that. In fact, he's very critical of the anti-Semites. He will become very critical of the vulgar anti-Semitism of Richard Wagner. And I think this is I think Nietzsche's middle period is something people look at. Human all too human, and even the gay science. There is yes, the later will to power goes off the dark end, but Nietzsche himself is this. So Brutus, you're right. No. I think I'm not going. I don't mind understanding this is not this. And I agree with it. I did not mean to say that Nietzsche is anti-Semitic. I think Nietzsche is, in fact, a useful critic of the anti-Semites in that sense. That Nietzsche's Wagner writings are very much a useful understanding and a critique of the sickness, the kind of intellectual sickness that was driving this. Now, I was thinking about this. Who should we blame for Hitler? I think more Wagner than Nietzsche. What is it? I almost want to make fun of that 1970s musical, Litzomania, which has that scene where Wagner comes out of the grave and he's Hitler, killing all the Jews and things. And the more I just watched recently on YouTube the full 4 parts of the miniseries on Wagner that Richard Burton put together in the 1980s. I remember watching. I remember in 1991, 91 or 92. What's his name? Oh, come on! The student. He was a young. They just hired him in Northern Illinois to be an American law guy. He was the he was the constitutional law and American legal system guy that they brought in. He was a junior. His father was a famous Southern Baptist extremist who taught about the King James Bible as being the Word of God. Oh, come on, what does I know? Rudiman, not Rudiman. The Rudimans, I remember the story. That the King James Bible is written by God. Yeah, this is okay. This is the King James only movement, right? Types. Name. Ruckman. Peter Ruckman. That's the guy. Well, Peter Ruckman's son, Peter Ruckman Jr. Now, Peter Ruckman dies. Big guy dies. Now, his son, Peter Ruckman Jr. He was hired at Northern Illinois, and I remember. And Peter Ruckman Jr. loved Wagner, and he watched the whole. I remember watching with him in his apartment, we lived in the same apartment building. That's how I came. This was, and Peter Ruckman Jr. Um, ooh, my God, he got shot 58 years old. What is this? Hold on. Oh God, he got killed. 2018. In other words, 4 days before discovery of the bodies. Hold on, this is sorry. I'm sorry. Ruckman, who police think shot and killed his sons. That is. Oh God, that is. I'm sorry. I just discovered something. I was looking for something. I looked. I just want to remember the name, Peter Ruckman, and I just discovered that he was just killed. He was just killed. Like, what's going on? A couple years ago, he got shot, and they discovered that he killed his. Well, I remember him loving Wagner. And it was like, we watched that whole series on Wagner, videos, DVDs, not DVD, video of Wagner, the 3 multi-part series. And I just recently rewatched it on YouTube, and I was like, oh God. And it was, to be honest with you, so bad. It was like so badly done, but then it was so, Wagner is this weird character in that sense. You look at Wagner and you see, oh my God. Oh God, that's just. I'm sorry. That just took me by finding out that Ruckman was apparently gunned down. I mentioned it was gunned down, and Gorgon 58 died, and then it was 2018, and then it says that he got killed. He killed his sons. That is just okay. That was just a little bit. I apologize, guys. That was just, I just want to talk about because I remember Ruckman talking about watching Wagner with him. It was like the miniseries, and he loved Wagner's music, and he loved the miniseries. And I was like, oh God, while Wagner's music is beautiful, and the operas are beautiful, the content of his thought is just insane, and you can see that in that sense. This is the yeah. That is such a strange little world. Okay, I want to say what's going on. Hold on. We're over our time. We're 20 minutes over our time. I don't want to get into it anymore. I think we're at the end. If James, please email me or not email me. Please put some of the comments on what I asked. It'd be useful. Those who want to put any comments or what something they want me to talk about, we can talk about next week. Next week I will have a meeting. I will do this with you guys because my last class before we go. I'm going to probably be going with my wife and mother-in-law to her house. Our mother-in-law is staying with us right now currently. And we will be going to her house to celebrate Christmas, but then coming back right after Christmas. So next week we will do a series. We'll do a live stream. And I hope you guys have a good Christmas. I'll say something next week. If you like it, hit the like button. So far, 3 people liked it. There's 1 person. We've had like a lot of people come on and leave. If you liked it, hit the like button, please. It will help the show. Those of you who do come after and watch after we live, please go watch it and put comments on it. Please put some suggestions in the comments in the post live thing. What you'd want some people to talk about in that sense of what we're doing here. Uh, uh, I've been looking at some things. I'm preparing some work for myself to prepare for the Machiavelli's discourses, which we'll be doing in the new year. And that's it. I'm going to be, please, you can always buy, you can hit the like buttons, you want to go check me out on social media, you can do that. The social media, the academic social media things, you can follow me on the social media links. You can follow on Twitter. I'm there on Twitter, or X as it's now called. I will not go to Blue Sky. I will not go to Blue Sky. I joke about this. I'm in Gab. I don't hardly use Gab that much. It's just very strange in that terms. What I will be doing next week, we'll see what happens. We'll see. I hope people have put great comments on this and things. You can buy you want to help me, you can do so through Subscribestar Patreon. I haven't hit the right amount of viewer time apparently to be able to get. I'm at the number that I can get the monetization, but I didn't get it, so I can't get super chats. Well, I don't care really. It would be nice to have someone to throw me a little money once in a while, like look at a little bucket saying, "Please feed me," throw me $1, throw me $1. I joke about that a little bit, and you can do so by buying one of my books. My little on Amazon, you can get my ebook that's out now. Finally, it's been out for about a couple months. No one's buying it. I don't blame them not buying it because it's too short. But it ought to be to get like $6 or $7. It had to be that short because anything bigger would have cost more. It's not like I'm making a big ton of money from each copy. Maybe $1 a copy. So it would be nice if you want to help. You can do that. It would be fun to do that. So please encourage people to buy the copy of my the Polis as the ancient political form. And you can check out my writings on the different things. You can buy a copy of the. I don't think you can buy this anymore. I think that the hard copies are out of print. You can probably buy an e-copy of the ebook, but it's not like I get any money from it. And you can buy same thing my LSU book. You can buy my LSU book in places like that, or you can buy through Lulu my notebook series on the Aristotle politics. I've not done. I promised people to do the website on the politics. I have it. I'm having a problem. I need to really think about where I'm going to post it. I have most of it done. I have most of the I want to integrate the outline, the chapter by chapter outline of Aristotle that I have, which is like 800 pages on. If I use the same, it's about 400 pages in A4, over 400 pages A4. If I reduce it to the size of this, it's over 800. That's why I gave up doing a book. I was going to make a book of it. It can't be an OOPUB because it's an outline. OOPUBs don't like outlines. So I thought I'm going to make a website, and I'm going to integrate my YouTube videos that I've had. I'm redoing, that I'm releasing on the politics, and integrate them together. And I can do that. That's not a problem. I can do that. The problem is finding a place to put it. I don't want to host it myself. I can't fix my tripod account. My old tripod account, it's dead. It's still up there and it's live, and as you can see my things, but I can't edit it because when I try to go to tripod to access the account, they'll say there's nothing here. Sorry. You open your account and it says, oh, no. You want to buy an account for like $50 a month? And I go, what? I had it for free for such a long time. It's still there, but it's not accessible to edit. So I couldn't edit I couldn't go into Tripod to edit it so I can make an account. So I don't want to touch it, but that's what it is. We'll see what happens. Okay, that's it for the day. We're at an hour and a half. I'm over. So take care. I hope you guys have a nice day, nice Sunday, nice weekend. I'm going to be busy tomorrow with my Shakespeare group, my last meeting before the Christmas break. Take care. I will see you next week, and bye-bye.